So the winner of this plays Dark Arm Dragon, who's in the finals. Sorry, Dank Arm Dragon is in the finals. Oh God. One, two, three, four. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Bruh.
Oh my God. Oh my God. And the Gardener.
Everyone, it's Hydro Pump here. Today I am showing you my Lightsworn deck that I used in Fraser Smith's or IMNerd Podcast. He had a little Patreon tournament for Yu-Gi-Oh! Edison format. So I'm showing you my Lightsworn deck I played for that. And it is a crazy deck. He only had it was a little tournament, so like I think it was like no more than 15 players or so. And I managed to get second with this deck, and it was a lot of fun. And you can also play in these in the future if you are a Patreon member of his podcast, and there's a lot of good content there. He has you get exclusive videos, podcasts, and then you're gonna be able to get in the videos a week early than most people normally would if you're a Patreon. So then you get in the Discord. So there's a lot of good stuff there. And you actually get prize money for doing these tournaments, and we're probably going to be running more in the future. So I think first place, it was a $100 prize pool for this, and it was completely free to enter. So it was $50 to first place, $25 to second, and then 12 and 12 to third and fourth. So it's a little something. Gives you something to play for. Unlike most of the online tournaments right now, where you literally don't get anything for winning or topping, or so yeah, it was a lot of fun playing this tournament, and a lot of people were bringing brews and stuff. So I think overall my record was 4-2 with this deck because it was double elimination. So yeah, I'm just gonna run through the idea of the deck real quick and just get a general idea, like why am I playing 60 cards in Lightsworn first of all. So I was thinking about playing Fiend Comedian in Lightsworn just because you can kind of go big if you resolve it like mid to late game at all against a lot of decks. Like, it's a trap card, so it's chainable, and then you can just kind of flip it at whenever you want. It is literally a coin flip card, so you kind of have to make it work both ways. The one effect is if you call it right, you banish your opponent's entire grave, which can be really deadly. Imagine you're playing against frogs and you banish both Treeborns, or they go Miracle Fusion and you chain this and you banish their grave. Now Miracle fizzles, and against Vayu Turbo, banish their whole grave. There's just a lot of decks where if you banish everything in their grave, they just lose on the spot. So this this card goes your way, like banish your opponent's grave, then it can literally just be like a on the spot auto win card. But I kind of had to make it work to where, okay, if you don't win the coin flip, and you're gonna mill a bunch of cards, you have to be like make that worthwhile. So, and Lightsworn already mills a lot of cards, so I didn't want to like put myself in a situation where it's like, well, if I get this wrong, I'm gonna mill out my deck and then I lose. So I don't really see this card working too well in a 40 card list. Maybe more in the sideboard, but I think maybe with like 50 or 60 cards on the list that you can get away with this card in the main deck. So yeah, it's a pretty cool card. I resolved it a couple times. I think, yeah, it actually won me a game where I banished my opponent's grave. And then there was another time where I milled like 15 cards with it against Vayu Turbo, so it was kind of crazy there. So definitely a really cool card. So that's kind of like what I was building around. So the rest of the deck kind of just like is a Lightsworn deck, and this is kind of like the central piece that I was trying to build around. So yeah, it's a really cool card. Anyways, just gonna get the deck list. We play 2 Arcuus, the Lightsworn Druid. Now this guy's like really underrated. Pretty much Lightsworn monsters can't be targeted anywhere. So yeah, and he mills 2. So, and I play like a lot of stall traps, which I'll get into, but you can protect him with the stall traps, and it's really hard to kill him and get him out of the way. So he's just kind of sitting there, and then you can tribute summon Celestia really easy if you have him stick on the field for a turn. And this deck is like really good at stalling, just like having your Lightsworns on the field multiple turns at a time. We play Card Trooper because it mills 3, places itself, so it's pretty good. 3 Celestia, card's pretty busted. Like an alternative win con if you don't have access to Judgment Dragon. And this deck, again, like this has Lightsworn monsters sitting on the field like multiple turns on end, so it's like really easy to summon Celestia, whereas most Lightsworn decks is kind of like a struggle. It's like you really want to summon Celestia, but you have to like make sure your Lightsworn sticks for a turn. It's kind of hard if you're just banking on like Necrogardener or Honest to protect your guys for a turn. Double Aaron. You're playing 60 cards, so you can probably get away with playing 2 Aaron. And I wanted to, there's a card I want to consider playing in the future where it would make Aaron better. So yeah, 2 Aaron, 1 Garoth. I was considering playing 2 before the tournament, and then after the tournament, I was like, wow, this card can go ham in this particular build. So I think I might want to bump him up to 2. A little greedy, but like, if you mill him and then like Glorious Illusion him back, like it can go crazy. And to see him in the grave really early, or to see him just like in general, just because you're like milling a lot in this deck, you have times where you have 3 Lightsworn monsters on the field, so you're gonna get even more mills off Garoth, and you really would just want to get the draws, which help out this deck a lot. And we play Gores. Currently don't have Tragodia, but Tragodia might be considered in the future. That was like one card I might consider playing. And then Graganith, or I guess that's how you pronounce it. Anyways, the Lightsworn Dragon, not JD. This guy is you know, he seems like he sucks on the surface, but he's actually really good in a build like this. And it's kind of like this whole deck's kind of like I think 2 times topped of the Lightsworn deck that was playing this guy and then Glorious Illusion. So I kind of just took it one step crazier towards Madness, just like kind of went the distance with this. So he gains 300 for each Lightsworn in your grave with different names. So he's kind of like a Shire in that sense. And then it does piercing damage. So this guy can easily get up to like 3,000 attack and just pierce over like something tiny, like a token or a Reiko, Treeborn Frog. And during the end phase, he mills 3, so that's pretty good. So you can pair this with Glorious Illusion, bring back a huge guy out of nowhere. So you could potentially get the 3,000 or 4,000 pretty easily. And if you're just doing that to pierce over something, by the time you're getting this guy out, it's probably like late game, so it's like an easy win con. I may even consider playing 2 if I can find room. Just like I don't have brain control on the list right now, but if you pair this with brain control, that could be really deadly because you can brain control their guy, tribute summon this. Whereas normally with Lightsworn, it's like your only way to abuse brain control is like you don't really want to tribute their monster with Celestia unless it's their own Lightsworn monster, and then the only other way to abuse it is like Plague Spreader. So that'll just give you another way to abuse brain control, which brain control is a good card, so that might be something. 2 Honest, obviously, 2 Jane, pretty good. 2 Judgment Dragon staple, Lumina staple, 3 Lila, just you just want to see this card pretty often just to get back out of the way. And then we had Necrogardener, Plague, staples, and I went with 3 Reiko, 3 Hamster. Hamster was pretty good just to get the Reiko and just a big body against like the beater decks, like Hero Beat for example, just kind of gets in the way. And then I guess I'll give you like more reason to play this guy at 2 because you can just tribute your Hamster and just get a big guy out there. Gives you something to do. We've got 3 Wolf. The round with the monsters now. 3 Wolf, like usually people complain about like, oh, I opened Wolf and Lightsworn. Well, you know, if you're playing 60 cards, you're less likely to open it, and then if you're like, you know, just milling a lot of cards, sure, it's like less likely you're gonna mill it, but like you're going at least 3 to 1 ratio on milling cards. You mill 3 per turn at least, and then you're drawing 1 per turn. So the odds are more in your favor to actually mill the wolf than to actually draw it. In that case, I mean, obviously it's the same scenario in a 40 card list, but you're a lot more likely to draw the wolf in a 40 card list than a 60 card, which you still draw the wolf, and I mean you draw all these cards obviously, but it's just like if you're like on average you're probably milling like 3 to 6 cards per turn with this deck. That's the way it's built. So if you're milling that many, you're gonna hit your wolves like way more consistently rather than drawing them like other lists. That's kind of just how I view it, and it worked pretty well, I think. And then we have onto the spells, card destruction. I played this to try a combo with Fiend Comedian, but I didn't really like it that much. I sided it out a lot. So I probably dropped this from the deck list. We got Charge, Cold Wave. Cold Wave was crazy. Really good card. If you're using something like Lightsworn, it's just like super underrated. Just like, okay, and a lot of decks can't play it really, so it's just like people kind of sleep on this card or forget about it. Foolish Burial. Foolish is good. I guess maybe, I mean, it's good to dump Wolf if you need to tribute summon Celestia, but I didn't get like too much use out of it other than that. Goldstark was really good in this list just because you're able to stall for so much. So like in other Lightsworn lists, it's kind of like it's a little shady if you're going to be able to live long enough to like Goldstark. Like most times you are, but like you might be in a bad spot, or like whereas this build can just like stall like crazy. So like you're always resolving your Goldstark and getting your card. So that worked out really well. And then we have Heavy, 2 monster reincarnation. Actually wanted a third one, so I may consider 3. It may seem excessive because like you're already on 3 beckoning and 2 monster reincarnation, but I had a couple games where like it would have been nice to see like one of those 2 cards, which maybe playing extra Garroth to draw cards would help out some with that, but you know, this is something to consider. 3 recharge, pretty good. Another spell I would want to consider maybe playing is like Book of Moon in the main deck. I had it in this list, but then I took it out for just like a couple cards. So yeah, Book combos really well with Raiko Hamster, obviously. Combos really well with Aaron. And then if your opponent is like sitting on like Stardust Dragon, you can just like book the Stardust and drop Judgment Dragon or Celestia, which is pretty nice. It combos with this Lightsworn Dragon guy really well. So it like synergizes really well with most of your monsters. I'm sure there's some other things. I mean, it's just an interactive piece, like that you can like just like, you know, play on your opponent's turn. I'm sure there's some things I'm missing, but yeah, I think Book of Moon would probably be pretty solid in a list like this. And so yeah, that's the spell cards. And again, I wasn't playing Brain Control, but I already kind of stated why, but may consider in the future. As for traps, we have 3 Beckoning Light. This card is pretty crazy in this build, in particular, just because you're milling so much. So you're like, if you're able to stall in Lightsworn and then resolve this card, you're essentially like just searching for Judgment Dragon, Celestia. You get this card's just crazy because you get like whatever you need, like Honest, Celestia, JD, and it's chainable. So like, think of MST on your back row or snipe it with something and just like chain it. Brionic Bounce, and you're like, okay, I'll add this stuff back. So yeah, this card's pretty crazy. Call the Haunted. Just to reborn your Lightsworn monsters, get some more mills. You can bounce back Honest if you really want to. Yeah, there's just a lot of good synergies there. And then 3 Feet Comedian. This may be... I probably just need to side it out in the matchups it's not good against. I kept it against Hero Bee because you can like banish their grave. But they're also not getting a huge grave, so if you don't land the coin flip call, then like you're not getting a big mill off it. So I probably just need to side it out in those matchups. But like the fact that this can just be like an auto win in a lot of matchups if it goes your way. Well, a lot of decks are like revolve around the grave, so like this card's just kind of crazy regardless. So it'd probably stay at 3, but I can see it maybe you cut into 2 just so you don't like open 2. That could be kind of rough. 3 Glorious Illusion. If you don't know, this is kind of like Call the Hunted for Lightsworn monsters, which is pretty solid. And then it also mills 2 itself. So you're even, so say if you like, you summon Lila, and you mill 3, and then like next turn you can reborn another monster, mill for Lila, mill for the other Lightsworn, and then you can like just mill. This is an extra 2 mills, so you're milling like, I don't know, 5 to 8 cards per turn. So you just get like a lot of stuff in the grave. And then you also pair it with Lightsworn Barrier, which no one really plays this card, but in a build like this, I can see it working pretty well. It's another continuous trap. When a Lightsworn monster you control is targeted for an attack, you can send the top 2 cards of your deck to the grave, then pretty much negate the attack. So you can pretty much you can combo these 2 cards together, because like you can have like open field. Your opponent attacks, you're like, okay, Glorious Illusion, and then you're like, okay, Lightsworn Barrier, and they can't do anything. But Lightsworn Barrier works really well with Arcuous, because you can just have Arcuous sit there. Like, he's usually weak, so that's why not a lot of people play him. But if you Lightsworn Barrier with this, they have to like clear the Lightsworn Barrier. They can't like target Arcuous at all. So he, like, I had a game where I stalled for like several turns with like Arcuous and Lightsworn Barrier. It was pretty crazy. So that combo is like really deadly. And if you just add Celestia to the mix, where you like, okay, you protect for a turn, you summon Celestia, it's just probably lights out. And it's like, just like having your Lightsworn monsters live for a turn can be so huge. Just to, like, it's just another turn of milling, and then you mill 2 cards off this card on top of it as well. So it's kind of like a win-win in that scenario. So yeah, this card's pretty good. I was a big fan of it. And then 3 Threatening Roar, just some more stall cards. Like, if you're not, just like more Lightsworn Barriers, pretty much. And it's also good on its own, just to like make sure you live for a turn. So yeah, these cards are really big in helping you stall for quite a bit of time. And then I was also considering playing Mirror Force, just so like, because they're expecting one of these, but like if you surprise them with the Mirror Force, that could be pretty good too. Maybe in Torrential, just because like your opponent's like building these massive fields when you're just stalling them out with these cards, and then you get to hit him with Torrential in the right time. That might be good as well. So yeah, just a lot of good stuff here. It was pretty fun. I don't really talk about the extra deck because it's not that important. It's kind of like just a staple extra deck. As for the side deck, I decided a third Arcuous. This was for like something like Frogs, where they need to target something with a Monarch. I don't know if the third one is like really necessary or not, but it's just pretty good to see it in Frogs, against Frogs in general. And then 2 Cyber Dragon. It's a beater and it works with Honest. It's Shiny Black Sea. I saw this against Vayu Turbo. I played round 1, and it was crazy. I milled 2 of these at one point. I think I milled it off Fiend Comedian, and like he just pretty much lost on the spot. Like he was like kind of far behind, and then you can't summon Arnwings with this up on the field. So it's a really good card against like VU, Turbo, and Zombies, because they're like synchro based decks. And then My Body's Shield's pretty solid. This protects you from like Icarus attack, field wipes, and then like Starlight Road, Stardust Dragon, those kind of things. So this card's pretty good. MST and Dust Tornadoes just to clear back row, and 3 Master Strict just for like Frogs, just so like you don't get like Monarch trained. So yeah, that was a list. I mentioned some things I would maybe change in the future, but overall it's like pretty good, and it might be the way for Lightsworn in the future, because like usually it's just like regular Lightsworns and then Christiasworn. But I think there's merit with this, because 60 card build, just because you're milling a lot of cards, so you're seeing a lot of cards. But also lets you grind a lot more. I imagine in regular Lightsworn lists, you're kind of like against your own clock, because you can only mill so many cards, so you can't really have Lightsworn sticking around on the field forever, or Judgment Dragon turn after turn. Whereas this deck gives you a lot more space to mill. Like I even had games where I got down to a couple of cards left in deck. I'm like, man, how does regular Lightsworn deal with this like all the time? Because like you have to like you're pretty much giving yourself a clock. Like you are gonna mill out unless you kill your opponent. So I'm sure they deal with it pretty well, but it was just kind of nice to have that buffer space of a 60 card build, and I didn't really feel like having 60 cards made my deck less consistent, just because you know I have a lot of multiples here, so unless they're just like really clunky for some reason, but you know the Lightsworn monsters are Lightsworn monsters, they're gonna mill, and then you have like all the rest of the cards are like the supporting cast, so you have a really large engine to support 60 cards. So anyways, that was my Lightsworn list. It was a lot of fun. It might be the new norm. Who knows? I can even see something like 60 cards work with Sworn as well, just because you're able to add a lot more cards. You're not trying to cram two massive engines into one little space of 40 cards, which is kind of hard for Sworn in the first place. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting concept, and I think it's a little underlooked for at least Lightsworn's deck building. But leave a comment down below what you thought of the deck. Again, it was kind of like a small scale tournament, but I think it it shows some promise and potential. But just let me know what you think of the deck, and again, go check out Fraser Smith's channel and YouTube channel, and then his Patreon for his podcast that he does quite often, and he has a Discord server and everything. So go check him out, and then maybe you can enter the next little tournament he has going on, and hopefully these can get kind of big and popular. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys later.